16th. We will start with roll. So we want to start all the way down with Linda and
Linda Carlson, here.
Sorry, and I'm the first one that doesn't have my Linda Carlson here.
Dana Capel.
Luke Hurt.
Miko.
Troy Kuntz.
Marcus Rees.
Brian Kopp.
All right. Did we have any word from John? Anyone? Okay. We don't think so. All right. So let's make a note that he was absent at the call to order. Approval of minutes. Everyone have a chance to read through those minutes. If so, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes.
I second that.
Any discussion? All right, all of those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion is carried. Approval of expenditures. Danny, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about those?
As I kind of have said in previous month, it's pretty much run-of-the-mill expenses that we usually encounter. OCLC, we had to renew our OCLC subscription, which is actually like kind of like I would explain it as like the country's library catalog. So that is kind of the library catalog that the Library of Congress inputs MARC records into, and that is where all the other libraries throughout the country get their MARC records from, and just general information. It is also where we do interlibrary loans, so we can see what other libraries throughout the country have on their catalog as well.
Any other questions or discussion on the expenditures?
And this may be too much to ask, but is there any way to get these split out into recurring and one-time expenses? So it's like, is Hoopla a monthly expense, is it a yearly expense, does that make sense?
Hoopla is a monthly expense. We could, it would be hard to do it all at once. Like if you were almost okay with us doing it like slowly as we kind of get the new bills in, that might be a little bit easier, because then it would just be kind of creating another box in this spreadsheet and then just saying like monthly, yearly or annually or biannually or whatever. So
It just makes expense reports easier to read.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can look into that for sure.
And that isn't anything that the city actually does for their expenditures, so that would be a report that she'd have to manually do for that, to put that on there. So it's not anything that we have in our budget book or the city organization of chart of accounts. We don't have anything that has monthly, annually, yearly, quarterly, whatever. We don't have any of that.
Oh, well, if it's exceptional, then I guess not so much.
Well, that's what I was just going to mention, because yes, she could put staff to work on it, but it's not something that, it's a report that comes out automatically, for type of request. I know she added the invoices to the packet and everything, which was, it's a big file, but it was all there and everything, so I'm not sure if on there you could tell if it was a monthly or annual, because a lot of times in the invoice it'll say annual membership or annual maintenance or something like that, or quarterly premium or something like that. That, reading the invoices exactly, you might be able to tell that way too and stuff. So that's what I was trying to bring apart.
I have I just wanted to make sure that I'm on. I have a question. Who puts this together? The monthly spreadsheet?
My admin support librarians.
So if it was annual or monthly, next to the vendor, they could just add like in parentheses, annually, monthly, so that gives it. I mean, it's not a whole separate sheet.
It would just be, adding a
Do you know
column.
what I mean? But next to the name or even putting another section in this
Yep.
Excel spreadsheet, it wouldn't have to be something so separate.
Right.
If they just wanted to put it actually on this, if that would help, because at least it gives a visual to, okay, this is a one-time thing, or it's gonna be 12 times, to expect. That was just an idea.
Compounding off of what you said, a visual representation, I think the easiest route here would be color coding. I mean, we wouldn't have to add an extra column or anything, just, you know, yellow or green for monthly or annually. I mean, then the spreadsheet doesn't have to be messed with, it doesn't have to mess with the formatting that every other expenditure report has to go through, and then we can still look and see the differences that we need to at a glance.
Yeah, I will talk, I don't think it would be a huge issue, so yeah, I'll talk to my staff member and just make sure that it won't be a huge issue, that I'm not seeing something. But yeah, I think it should be fine, we should be able to figure out a way to do it.
Luke, to that, one thing I would add to that then, it made me think of is on our profit and loss report, it actually, that stuff would all be in there, so, you know, you'd be able to see where percent expended is, always live on that sheet. So if it's looking like something's out of line, then maybe it'd be worth looking into the details, but if everything's in order, it is a little bit of duplicating efforts at that point.
I also wanted to thank you for sending all of the invoices. I don't know who exactly did that, but I appreciated it. It was definitely a lot to sift through. And I just have to share like my personal conviction of integrity of knowing like something is Baker and Taylor and you know there's I don't know $200 spent or something like that. It's hard for me to just say okay if it's not something that I feel I've seen, if that makes sense. Other things like Montana Dakota Utilities, that is like obvious in the line item. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way as librarians put together their book lists to order them that we can just receive the book lists. Because to me, I don't, like pizza is super self-explanatory, but the materials and books and things like that, that's why I asked for those invoices so that I could start to look over them. And also I wanted to mention if it's hard for me to come to this meeting and say, oh, I'm okay with that spending when it's already happened. Like I think of it like I tell my husband I just spent $3,000 on something and I'm like, is that okay? Versus asking permission to spend that money and then spending that money. Does that make sense? It's almost like we're seeing it after the fact.
And if I can,
But I don't know if that's normal.
Yeah,
You know what
yes.
I mean? I'm so brand new, but I'm just kind of bringing my personal, like, what's kind of going through my mind.
so that, it's a perfectly good question, especially for a new member. And what that, to explain that would be you as a board, all of you are putting policies towards the library. The profit loss, the expenditures, the budget is all done through the city budget. So the actual commissioners of the city approve the expenditures before they are paid. So every invoice has to be in front of the commissioners before they're paid. They pay it as a group and stuff upon making an approval of expenditures. So they do that at every commission meeting. But I can see your concern as far as what's being paid through the library. You want to understand all that. But the actual process is the city's side of it because it is what we budget. And Danny has to be able to follow the budget as far as what she's given from the city to be able to apply her expenditures. That's why she gets a profit loss statement to know exactly where her expenditures are. She could come in and say, oh, the insurance is at 102% right now on January because our calendar year is January. but it's due, the premium is due in January, so it takes her full budget of that amount or more, because it's only an estimate. So she has to explain those things to the board to say, why did I spend so much money in January on this one? But then she did give you the list of books, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked at that.
All invoices, which included all the new book purchases.
All the new book purchases, that you have every right to look at every invoice and everything, but the expenditures are already done, is what I'm trying to get at, is that the city already approves these expenditures, even though you as a board gets to see them, they're already approved and stuff, because,
Right,
you don't
they've
have the
approved
fiscal
it.
side of the board like the city does.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So, I guess, my concern is if there is a concern and the material's already bought, then it just seems like it could be flipped so that there isn't that. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's ever even happened. You guys would have to say if there's ever been an issue.
No, really, there has
since
not
I've been on the
been.
board. I think one of the things to go back to from what you said, Linda, is that our position is to create the policies, the procedures, to hire the library director, be a part of that, and then kind of trust the process that everything's going, and if something's not quite working the right way, then we have to go back and reevaluate those policies. Correct me if that statement is wrong, because I am just as new.
Yeah, and
Not too much longer,
that's exactly right, because I was gonna use the example of Danny has all the authority to be able to order all the operations, things that she has for her budget. If something would come across, which has come across, and this has to be directed, and there's a process, which there's an appeal letter that she has to sign to. If they don't agree, then it comes to the board then, because then you're objective of what's going on, because you are the board. So when somebody comes to appeal to the board, you're objective so that you can get your information that you need. She's already decided her decision of what her recommendation is, but then the board has the final rule of that, of your policies and procedures and stuff like that. So it's kind of like my board of commissioners for the city. They set policy, law, and we make the recommendation of what should be done through the process of what they govern us for. But then if there's any question from the citizens or anything, we direct our answer as a recommendation. If they don't like that, then they can appeal to the board. So the same thing, so that they stay objective, and then they can make their own decision without being a part of that process, if that makes sense. So, it's a long answer.
Yeah, that
Sorry.
was, that was a lot of information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
I totally understand, like, the budget is set and then how it's spent, that makes total sense to me. I just think of like, being proactive in that sense, like, of if we're gonna come here and approve it, it's just helpful for me to see exactly what it is, to have a clear mind about approving it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think having the invoices in front of you, I thought that was a great idea.
Absolutely.
So that you can actually see, because it all just says children's books,
Right.
MDU, electricity,
Right.
which is obvious,
Which
but
is
like you said.
self-explanatory.
But it's nice to see all those invoices, because I'm just gonna say, there's some invoices that could be 90 days old. Why? That could be a question that you have, that you're reviewing the invoices. So that'd be a question to Danny, is how come it took 90 days before this bill even come forward to be paid or something like that? Or can you explain to me what
So what
whatever
is,
those words were?
what is acceptable for, like, that's another thing I don't know. Is this kind of covering June and July?
This is just July. So
Some
I
of
separated it out. So this is just what we processed in July. So like right now, or for the first few weeks of the new month, we'll get invoices that might be from the previous month because, you know, it's a little bit delayed. But I only include them, I'll include them all in your August packet. Because, so like this is your July packet essentially, because July is done. And so if more let's see, how do I, so like in September, if we get more invoices from August at the beginning of September, we'll have already had our August meeting, and so I will include those in the next meeting, yeah. So I do it kind of month by month, but we're like always a month behind because,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
And what's acceptable is usually nothing past 91 days. That, anything before 91 days is acceptable.
Okay. As I was going through the invoices and just looking at things that I've never actually been able to look at before, I was wondering if there has ever been policy in place. This kind of it was discussed last meeting about requests and citizen requests, bringing them to the library, and I'm wondering if there's ever been any compilation of what has been requested in that ordering, you know, if there's a percentage of those orders each month that come from citizen requests, or if that's even been,
I guess we don't tend to get a ton of citizen requests to begin with, but I wouldn't know offhand as far as like a percentage goes. I would have to talk to my librarians that receive those and kind of do the ordering and see how often they receive them.
I'm just referencing that because of like the follow-up. So if there isn't a ton of requests, it would seem like they would be a shoo-in, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for the orders. And I don't know if there's ever been policy written about that before, citizen requests and how that plays a role in the ordering. But as I was going through the invoices, it just kind of was a thought that popped to the front of my mind.
We have a selection policy, and so the requests have to kind of meet the criteria of the selection policy.
The citizen request.
Yes.
Okay. Is the selection policy something that
It's
you
online
guys
with
have
all of our
made?
policies.
And the board made it up?
Yeah,
They
all the policies-
approved it.
Yeah, approved. Essentially, I mean, the last time we actually like looked at a policy, and I know we'll probably have more coming in the future as we review. Typical process, correct me if I'm wrong, the library director presents policy changes or suggestions, or if there's a new policy that needs to be presented, writes it, presents it to the board, then we have discussion, makes any changes or makes suggestions to changes, and then eventually, once we can decide on, you know, and then we approve, and then it becomes the official
Mhm.
policy.
Okay, I'll have to look that up then.
So all of our policies are listed online, and at the bottom of each policy, it says when they were last approved by the library board.
Okay. So, I mean, something would have to be so, like, way off to be against the selection policy before, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'll have to look at it and then I'll reference back
Okay.
to it.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I feel like I talked a whole lot right there. And
No, it's a great time to, I mean, we have it.
I just had all of these different
Right.
things
Well,
going
they're
through my
for a reason,
mind,
so-
and so I just wanted to address them, and I will be.
Absolutely, and I think with the board training that we'll be having after this meeting, hopefully we can get a
Exactly.
lot more information too. Because I as well, I'm kind of just like I've been on the board for about a year, but not having to be, you know, in this position, and got a lot of different things going on and different people on the board. So it'll hopefully be a beneficial training where we can get some questions asked or. All right, how about the expenditures? Anything in there you specifically wanted to, or the financial report rather?
You still need an approval. Mhm.
Can you do them, do we need to do them separately? I thought it was commented last time that we can group them, but. No, that's fine, just making a note last time.
I think because you're receiving the invoices with the expenditures, that is a group, you know, the invoices, but the financials just your profit and loss of where the percentage of your
Okay.
budget is. So I would,
That doesn't necessarily need a
Right,
formal vote.
right,
Okay.
I would definitely do, the expenditures. Because if there is something that you saw in an invoice that you're questioning, even though it's paid, you can still question it, but I feel that that should be a separate
Sure.
vote then.
All right, then I entertain a motion for the approval of expenditures.
Motion to approve expenditures.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, and your financial report. Anything out of the ordinary we should be aware of? Or any questions or discussion? All right, so we do not need a motion on that, correct?
Unless you need it for your policies, I don't know.
I don't.
We don't
So-
usually
Okay,
approve these.
all right, sounds good. I'll make a note for future meetings. So then, your library report.
All right, so I attached the circulation report for July. Circulation was up a little bit in July, but overall I feel like we've been fairly steady throughout the year, so that's been good. I did invite my programming librarians to do a little bit of a report for you guys about how summer programming went and the summer reading program in general. So they will be coming up after I do my director's report. We did have one part-timer leave and a second part-timer is going back to school, but they still want to work during their breaks in the library. So I think we're working with HR to kind of make that happen. Even with both of those part-timers leaving, Renee and I still feel that we have staff that we are comfortable and we should be able to cover it. So it's been nice. I feel like we have enough staff and they've been good, so that's always good. NDLA is coming up in October. For those of you who don't know, that's the North Dakota Library Association Conference. It's held yearly, and so I am working out who out of my librarians would like to go, and working out how we're gonna feasibly execute that. So we are all ready for staff day, so we have our staff day on Friday. I've lined up some fire safety training. Greg, which is our safety guy for the city, he is creating a little safety video for us to show to staff, which is awesome because then that means we can show it to new staff as we hire them as well. So everybody's getting the same information, which is great. And it's just going to be kind of general safety stuff, and particularly what to do if like there's an injury, like if a patron gets injured in the library or if a staff member gets injured in the library. And so I think that'll be really nice to just have on video and to be able to show everybody everything at once. So that'll be good. Renee and I are putting together a staff handbook for employees. This is just going to include kind of some employee expectations as far as codes of conduct go, simple things like cell phone usage while working, just, general. Since we don't have a specific handbook, we thought it would be nice to create one and then just have everybody kind of sign off on it once it's created, they've read it and they understand they're willing to comply. Before we actually roll it out, I'm gonna have HR, the city's HR, kind of review it just to make sure we're not missing anything huge or wording something inappropriately or something like that. So we will go through all of that during our staff day. Downstairs, the downstairs has been closed this whole week for rearranging. We are actually ahead of schedule with that. So I think it is just about finished or pretty close to being finished. So that's good. Buildings and grounds came while I was on vacation. I was out last week to visit some family in Denver, and apparently the community room flooded. So there was some water in there. I don't think it flooded, but there was water leaking into the community room. But anyway, we got Linda to come over with buildings and grounds. So thank you, Linda, for helping with that while I was gone. And they went up on the roof. They said they sealed some cracks that were up there, so hopefully that solved the issue. We also had water leaking through the west side of the building, through the windows that are up above the stairs. So water was basically just leaking all over the stairs, so not great as far as safety goes. But buildings and grounds came and they said they sealed the windows as well, so those should be good. And our air conditioning finally got fixed. So there are 2 of my employees sitting in kind of a back office, and it was incredibly hot. And now it is cool back there, so I'm really happy about that. And so are they, I'm sure. Let's see. I think that is about all that I have for you guys as far as what's been going on this past month. Do you guys have any questions?
What do you have lined up next month for Freedom to Read?
We were talking about essentially putting up a display. I was gonna put it kind of like Freedom to Read, a constitutional type display, because it essentially is celebrating the Constitution and the rights that we have in this country that not all other countries enjoy. So kind of, I guess, put up stuff about that was what I had thought, but I haven't had anything formal planned yet.
When you're looking at like professional development opportunities for your staff, like NDLA, is that a regularly lined like budget item that you have like set aside for trainings and things, and then kind of just analyze that and distribute it as you so choose, like see?
Yes, yeah, so we do have a budget line item for trainings and travel expenses related to those trainings. I know for the PLS report, I don't know how many of you guys have heard about like what the PLS report is, but it's public library survey. And basically we fill it out, it kind of says like a report card almost of what the library has done the year, and we submit it to the state every year. And then it kind of categorizes libraries as futuristic, excelling, or developing. Anyway, so to be sort of one of those types of libraries, the director does have to do in a national conference every, I think it's like 5 years. So when that comes up, I will probably come to you guys to ask for a bigger budget during that year, so I can do a national conference. But this year we're just doing NDLA, so it'll just be like regular line item budget.
Any other questions for Danny? Right, well, I will let you turn that over to.
All right, so I have Rachel Waldo and Jake House here, my children's and teen librarians, and so they were just going to do a really quick report and summary on how our summer programming went and summer reading programs. So, do you guys want to come on up?
Okay. So, I don't know if there's a system for this, but we're just gonna do it like school. Take one pass.
Thank you.
Follow directions.
Yes. So the sheet that's coming around that says summer reading for 23 numbers, this is kind of how we break down and keep track of how many people participated in summer reading program. So there's a lot of different numbers here. So at the top it says total readers registered versus participated. Sometimes people register and they don't actually continue to participate in the summer reading program, so that's why there's a difference in those numbers. But overall we had 70% participation for all of summer reading, which is really good. Last year we had 66%, so we're actually up. That's another thing. I color code things. So everything in blue is a reference to 2022, just so you know. The free book coupons that we give away are actually for the Friends Bookstore. That's something they approve for us to do every year. So the kids can pick that as a small prize so they can get a free book from the bookstore. So we gave out 150 of those book coupons this summer. We had 125 adults participate and they earned 2,188 logging badges. So the difference between total badges and logging badges, we add in fun things, so they get a registration badge and a completion badge, so that's part of the total badges. that they earn through being staff, but the logging badges are badges that have minutes attached to them. So our adults logged over 253,000 minutes this summer, which was really good. And then we also do most reads, so there's a space where it says additional minutes, and those are minutes that aren't attached to a badge. So people that kept logging after they earned all the badges, or sometimes people log minutes and then the program ends and they didn't earn a full badge. So there's that for the adults. Teens, we had 55, which was pretty good, and out of those 55, 48 completed the program, which is really great for our teens. And they actually logged more minutes than last summer, so they logged over 162,000 minutes, which for teenagers is really great. So, and just, I also break things down into, sorry I'm going in a circle, but I break things down into percentages participated for each age group as well. I like to see those things. So adults were at 69% and teens were at 77%, so really good participation for those groups. On the back side is all of our kids stuff. So for kids ages 6 to 12, there were 233 kids that participated, and they logged over 292,000 minutes, which is a lot of minutes. And out of those numbers, 72% participated. The early literacy one is a little bit different. So for ages 0 to 5, they don't log minutes, they log activities completed. So things like singing your ABCs, reading a story, visiting the library, different kind of hands-on activities that are part of early literacy for those guys. So they logged over 12,000 activities this summer between 123 kids. This group has a little bit lower participation at 63%, but I'm still really happy about those numbers with such a small age group, like 0 to 5. So I went through that really quickly. Are there questions at all? Okay, I'm like, it's a lot to look at, sorry.
No, this is good. Thank you, Jade. You're amazing.
So mine is a much smaller font, but this is our programming numbers for this summer, 2023 on the left side. On the right is 2022. In this, I have broken it down into in-person programming, butts in seats, and then the asynchronous programs, for example, like displays or take and make crafts and things like that. In there, I also included among the totals the percentage increase or decrease from the previous year's numbers. Overall, all the way on the back, I guess in red, overall for summer 2023, we had 3,837 people. That is a 17.5 increase from last year. Particularly shining with the teen group, the 229 compared to the previous year's 114, which is a 100% increase. But overall, in every category, we were up. There were some dips throughout. I know that the 0 to 12 is down just a hair in June, but then made up for in July and August as well. Overall, the kickoff carnival had significantly higher attendance this year, as well as the ice cream social, so both the beginning and the end of summer reading program. If you have any questions about the percentages of growth or anything.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, great work on that. This is impressive.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, yep, impressive.
You guys are awesome, so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Anything else for the director or library report, Danny?
I think that's it, unless you guys have any questions.
All right, well, on to unfinished business. We need to, for the fall and the next meeting, set up a new kind of regular meeting time. I know it's been noted that we like this space, so that might be a little bit of a conflict. Did we look at any openings, or are you just looking to gather some ideas from us first before we compare with the city schedule?
I talked to Rita Binstock for the city, and she said that Wednesday evenings would probably be best for this type of space. Thursdays and Tuesdays would be worst.
And I know personally, I am conflicted until about 3:30, and so that would, previously our meetings were at 4. I know John had said earlier would work better for him. I know you have a similar work schedule, with availability after 3:30.
And I did just get my schedule back for the year for everything, so that my schedule's staying the same. I finally got it back.
Okay.
So anytime around 4 or after then would be the only time I can make it, unless you want to have it at 5 in the morning.
Yeah,
No,
I think so.
nobody, no.
So are there any conflicts with Wednesdays at 4? And did we second?
Do you guys wanna do second, or I was thinking maybe third, just because they have the city commission meetings on Tuesday, the first and the fourth Tuesdays?
Okay.
Oh, is it the first and the third?
First and the third Tuesdays of each month.
Oh, so maybe second Wednesdays would be better. I'm open for whatever works for you guys, whatever is best for you guys, so.
I mean, looking at it now, I don't have any direct conflicts, but now that I'm saying that, I'm sure something's going to pop up.
Oh, eventually, yeah. And we have had people call in or Zoom if we need a quorum, and you're available just not to physically be here, but we find with the second Wednesdays at 4.
Yes. So, yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
Okay, so we will plan on doing that from now on, and unless something else comes up.
Puts us, the next regular meeting time then would be Wednesday, September 13th. At 4 o'clock. New business, we have nothing on the agenda. Anything?
I had one question.
Yeah.
I noticed it wasn't on there. Danny, have you set up the committee for the library expansion?
Yes, and they are scheduled to meet at the beginning of September. I can't remember the date specifically offhand, but I
This-
think I invited you to it as well.
Okay.
You said then that expansion committee meeting would be September 6th.
Oh, okay,
September
So there it
6th.
is.
Okay. I'll look again. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
And so we'll be able to put them on for new business as far as a report from their meeting for our September committee meeting or board meeting. Anything that you had, Danny, that needed to go on for new business this week?
No, I think that's it for now. Yeah, until we kind of get more into the swing of things, so.
Absolutely. I know as part of kind of the library process, we are continually going through policies and things. Have you been looking at kind of setting up a schedule as we get rolling with fall meetings as far as the process of reviewing some of those policies and things that would just be kind of normal board business?
Yeah, I think I should work on that, maybe within the next couple of weeks. I'll put that on my schedule to kind of look through and just sort of, I know I've been looking at creating a new volunteer policy.
Yes.
And I'm hoping to have something for you guys in the September packet for that. But yeah, I think a schedule would be good. We should definitely set one up. So.
Absolutely. I appreciated these first 2 meetings being kind of a light agenda as we kind of wrap our heads around things and before this board training that we'll have this afternoon. Any other comments or questions or anything from the board members?
I have something, I really appreciated, you sending us the weeding list. And that would be for the month of July as well.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
I did have a few questions, and I think it might be because I don't understand. This is my first time ever seeing a list in this format. But according to the crew method, it was that a book would not have been checked out in 5 years.
It depended on the category of the book.
Okay. It's just interesting to me that some of the dates are within the last 5 years, and so I wasn't understanding why that book would either already be gone or
Some of them have gotten lost or just never been
I did
returned.
see that, yeah, I
Mhm.
saw that,
But
some of them were lost.
There was something with, one of my employees actually mentioned this, where she said on the report, it was some specific type of lost, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but I can double check with them and then send you an email to kind of give you that further information. But it was like a specific type of lost, and it would still just show up as withdrawn, even though it was actually like a lost book.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure it's not exactly the same thing, but I know the middle schools, as I'm sure you remember, is their filing isn't exactly perfect. I mean, we could scan a book and it would still be marked as lost, and then one day it would randomly fix itself. So I mean, I'm not sure how much of that would be computer error or anything else, but
I'm sure there's at least a little bit, yeah.
Absolutely. And to just expand just from my own library knowledge, depending on the section, especially when looking at nonfiction, there's suggestions of things like the technology books or like medical sometimes are suggested to review in less than 5 years just because of the frequency of changing information. So those are just some of those areas where it might fall in. And once again, it's all just a suggestion, and you kind of check all of the boxes before removing materials. So, all right. Well, it looks like we set our next meeting for Wednesday, September 13th at 4 o'clock. Do we need a motion to adjourn? Or do we just adjourn? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right. Well, that is our adjournment at 1:41.
Chip.